Hey, it's Eli K. Atlas, and welcome to another look behind the leaders of the free world. This time issue number 2, page number 1. This time we're going to be going over some colors and why I did what I did, how I did what I did, and how it turned out. Without further ado, let's get into it. Corey just put an amazing intro to this episode, and hopefully I did it justice. We've got this huge, without giving too much of a story away, we've got a bit of a hostage situation, and this is our first introduction to the character Medic. We'll get to her. You'll see her right now. We're just focused on the bad guys, but you'll see her in a second. And this is her the first time we see her. She's wearing a costume that we're pretty accustomed to from her, if you've seen some of the promotional art. So right off the bat, I was assigned to color this one, as opposed to the original colorist of episode 1, or rather issue 1, Ross Hughes. Shout out to Ross, he did an amazing job. So this time I got the responsibility of doing the art and the coloring as well. So I immediately knew right off the bat that I wanted this scene to be kind of a sunset scene, also because it connects to how the very first issue ended. And anyone who knows my art knows that I'm pretty fond of drawing or coloring sunsets, and that does influence the color palette a little bit. The panel one itself was a little bit tricky just because it was supposed to be like a binocular kind of view, which I've never done before, and it wasn't hard, but I didn't exactly know how I was going to execute it per se, so I kind of left all that towards the end, and you'll get to see a little bit of that as we continue. But the most important part was just getting the characters set themselves. Fairly standard process with that. Just everybody gets their highlights, the lowlights, cuts, colors, gradients, the whole nine, and after that we'll figure out what to do with the technical stuff. So this gangster, he's got these people in the hospital held hostage, and he's got this gun to this lady's back. He's pulling on her hair. He looks pretty satisfied with himself, and it's pretty simple, this panel itself. We're looking at them through the binoculars, and the binoculars are looking right into a window of the hospital, so they're kind of framed by the windows, the windowsill, the window frame, and things like that. So they're kind of framed like 3 times almost by the window, the binoculars, and then the panel itself. None of that particularly changes necessarily how they are colored, because the easiest thing to do in this case is always just to use an overlay once you finish coloring the characters themselves. And I'm not sure if that's considered cheating or not, but you can just put the overlay. What I like to do is to put in a overlay color on top of the panel, and then you can kind of choose the color that you want, and then it'll kind of smooth and kind of slightly tint everything that one color. Moving on to panel 3, which is technically panel 2. Panel 3, we've got these police officers on the rooftop, and these guys are doing the narration for the beginning of this episode, which is another really cool way Corey decided to do the intro. Take a whole different perspective from the way the last issue ends. You think it would pick up from there, but he just did like a whole 360, and I thought that was pretty genius. So I did use a little bit of a reference for this page at times color-wise, because I had an idea which I didn't necessarily know how to execute. So I was looking at one of the pages from one of my favorite comics, the All New X-Men, and kind of just looking at how they would use the colors for this particular scene. And it isn't so much that it's I don't know how to color a sunset scene. It's just more like the particular colors I was using is more like pink, and I wanted to figure out how I could make it work with the green of her outfit. Overall, between this and the page 4, which I actually jumped to after this, because a little secret, I don't always draw these in sequential order, page-wise. I I kind of like figured out how to make this color scheme really work between those two pages, pages 1 and 4. Another reason that was important in particular was because the splash page had to look really good, so I didn't really have I really couldn't, you know, experiment with it. I had to have the whole thing figured out by the time I got there. So as you can see, one of the details I added, which is something that I kind of found on Google, because this is taking place in the Philippines, which is where Medic is from. The SWAT guy's shirt, his shield says Davos or Davos SWAT, which is what the shields of the official SWAT down in that part of Philippines, not Singapore. That part of the Philippines actually have on their shield and on their armor. Why that was important was just because I felt like it grounded them a little more, gave them a little more context, a little more sense of location. And that's also important because of the way the city and everything is designed. If you were familiar with episode 1, I keep calling it episode, but the technical term is issue 1, but episode 1. The story takes place sort of like in an alternate kind of future. So I can make the city look sort of how I want, but it still has to look like the Philippines. But there are certain like technological advancements and things like that. I ended up skipping how I did panel 3 just because it took a pretty long time. So we're gonna get to the really cool part right now, which is Medic herself. She's running through an alleyway, and I thought this would be a really dope shot, and I actually had it looking a little bit differently originally. She had a little more of a lean back while she was running, because I thought she was kind of going to be cutting through a corner, making a sharp turn, but Corey wanted her to be like leaning a little more forward to give us that sense of urgency, like a sprint. That ended up working out pretty good. It didn't affect any of the layout necessarily, but it does give a better sense of energy. So the reason I think this shot is pretty cool is because we've got this nice backlight effect. Her outfit has a little bit of shading, a little shadows on it, and the front of her has these cool highlights, and it makes us really feel like we're coming through a really dark spot and into the light. So it's a bit of like it's a bit of a big reveal in a certain way, even though, you know, you're kind of familiar with the character. Hopefully you are a little familiar with the characters, and we do get to see a little bit of her in the last episode. At the very last page we have the whole team roll call, which was one of my favorite parts of episode 1. But this time we really get to meet her, and we're kind of holding back. We're adding a little more tension by just delaying that face to face with the character, which actually we kind of continue until page 4. So this is kind of the start of that. Corey was kind of making fun when I showed him the birds, the pigeons and stuff. He thought they were doves, and I was watching John Woo, but I was not. I just thought the Philippines, like, they have a lot of pigeons and birds and stuff like that out there, so I thought that was a pretty cool touch. So we continue to color the background elements now. I wanted the floor to be like a dirt floor kind of thing. I was working off a reference photo, and it was very rocky, kind of floor in the alleyways out there, and I'm sure every alleyway is different, but this particular reference that I was working off of had a certain texture that I really liked and wanted to replicate. It was a shot of the Philippines, so I wanted to make sure that I had a little bit of consistency with that. I did not deviate too much from the layout, and sometimes I will, sometimes I won't, but in this case I didn't really need to. This ended up filling a lot more of the page up than maybe I had planned, but I think it ended up looking really cool because we have the 3 panels overlaid on top of the one big image on the background, which is something that I like to do every now and then. It makes the layouts look pretty cool, in my opinion. And I like to give things in the background elements like character and I actually might have missed one little bit, but overall I think I was pretty satisfied with the background, because we've got different elements. We've got like a missing persons poster, we've got like some cardboard, we've got the walls, windows a bit shuttered, you know, we've got like boards and stuff just like boarded up against the walls to catch like rainfall and things like that. We've got rocks and beer cans. There's a milk crate on the floor in the alleyway. I like to add little details like that just to give a little sense of somewhere being a little more lived in, a little sense of a history. Like somebody could have walked around there and maybe put that milk carton out for some reason. They sat down there to like to hang out in the alleyway or something. Maybe there's feeding cats or whatever it is. Just things that can make you think a little bit, just things that give a little more sense of history to the scene. There's even like the face of a little child coming out of the corner of the alleyway. Maybe they're watching, and I felt like they could be like maybe a homeless child or something watching a medic run through the alleyway, and she kind of catches their attention. So I thought that added a little more presence and a little more character to the scene as well. Details like this definitely make the page take longer, but I think overall it definitely helps to create a really unique atmosphere for the characters themselves to live in. But yeah, that's pretty much all I recorded for this page. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching how it turned out. I'm gonna have the full image right after this is done, so you guys can get a look at how it turned out. Yeah, make sure you guys comment. Thank you so much again for your support on Leaders of the Free World. This video is going to be probably on the Kickstarter if we decide to do another one for episode 2, and a little after that I'll probably put it on YouTube as well. So thank you guys so much for checking this out. If you're on YouTube, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell for updates. And if you're watching this on Kickstarter, thank you so much for your support of the Leaders of the Free World Kickstarter. Hopefully you guys love what we do with episode 2. We put a lot of hard work into it, as we always do, so look forward to getting it out to you. Thank you guys so much again. Later.
Salam, Smith Nisumia, and this is Sana. September Spanish Tina, Yemen, Maghreb, Akkarahna, Linoa.